Have you ever had a dream so terrifying, so viscerally real, that you woke up drenched in a cold sweat, your heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird? A dream where the line between your sleeping mind and stark reality blurred into a terrifying, indistinct smudge of grey. We've all been there. We dismiss them as just nightmares. We reassure ourselves, reciting the age-old mantra, "It was only a dream." We tell ourselves that what happens in the shadowy theatre of our subconscious can't truly harm us in the physical world. But what if we're wrong? What if that terror you feel isn't just a fleeting illusion? What if your brain, in its most primal, suggestible state, could be tricked into believing the nightmare is real? Tricked into initiating a biological cascade that your body cannot stop? Tricked into shutting itself down for good? Tonight, we are not just exploring a spooky what if. We are peeling back the layers of a question that has haunted humanity for centuries. A question that lies at the darkest intersection of cutting-edge neuroscience, medical anomalies, and our most primal fears. Can you actually die in your dreams? The answer is far more complex, and frankly far more chilling than you might imagine. Because tonight, we're going to demonstrate how your own brain, the very architect of your consciousness, could become the ultimate boogeyman. To understand if a dream can kill you, we first need to understand the machine that creates it, your brain during sleep. When you drift off, you don't just power down. You enter a highly active, meticulously structured state. The most crucial of these states for our investigation is REM sleep, rapid eye movement. This is the home of your most vivid, narrative, and often most bizarre dreams. And it's here that we find our first critical piece of evidence, a neurological safeguard that is supposed to keep you safe every single night. It's a mechanism called REMatonia. Think of REMatonia as a biological safety switch. While your mind is off battling dragons, running from monsters, or flying through the clouds, your brainstem sends out a signal that essentially paralyzes your voluntary muscles. It's a disconnect switch, ensuring your physical body doesn't act out the vivid drama unfolding in your head. It is the only reason you don't leap out of bed while dreaming you're Superman. But here's where the first crack in our sense of safety appears. What happens when this safety switch glitches? This isn't a hypothetical. It's a recognized and terrifying sleep disorder, known as REM Sleep Behavior Disorder, or RBD. In individuals with RBD, the paralysis of rematonia fails. Their bodies are free to move, to thrash, to punch, to kick, to physically enact the narrative of their dreams. People with RBD have jumped out of windows they dreamed were swimming pools, attacked their partners whom they dreamed were intruders, and caused themselves serious physical injury, all while completely asleep. It's a terrifying glimpse into the raw power of the dreaming mind when untethered from its physical restraints. But RBD itself, while dangerous due to accidental injury, doesn't directly kill. It's merely a symptom, a red flag. Disturbingly, modern neurology has found that the development of idiopathic RBD is a powerful predictor of future neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease, Lewy body dementia, and multiple system atrophy. It's as if the failure of this small safety switch is the first tremor of a much larger earthquake to come. So the brain's first line of defense isn't foolproof. But physical thrashing is one thing. Can the content of the dream, the pure, unadulterated fear, be the actual weapon? Let's put aside the idea of your brain tricking itself into dying for a moment and ask a simpler question. Can fear kill you? The answer to that is an unequivocal, scientifically proven yes. When you experience intense fear, whether you're facing a real threat or one manufactured by a horror movie, your body initiates the fight or flight response. The adrenal glands flood your system with catecholamines, stress hormones like adrenaline. This causes a cascade of physiological changes. Your heart rate skyrockets, your blood pressure surges, your breathing becomes rapid and shallow. Normally, this is a temporary state designed to save your life. But what if the fear is so extreme that this system overloads? In very rare cases, the massive flood of adrenaline can be cardiotoxic. It can cause the calcium channels in the heart to open and stay open, flooding the heart muscle with calcium. This can disrupt the heart's electrical rhythm, leading to arrhythmia and potentially cardiac arrest. It's a phenomenon often called death by fright. Now here's the crucial link. Your brain doesn't always distinguish between a dream and reality. During a nightmare, the emotional centers of your brain, like the amygdala, fire up just as they would in a real-life terrifying situation. Your body is pumped full of the same stress hormones. You experience real, measurable physiological responses. A pounding heart, profuse sweating, a spike in blood pressure. Studies have consistently shown this connection. research has found associations between frequent nightmares and a higher prevalence of heart problems and high blood pressure. Another study found that intense autonomic nervous system activity during nightmares leads to physical symptoms of anxiety like sweating and shortness of breath. Your body believes it is in genuine peril. So the first part of our deadly equation is in place. A nightmare can trigger the exact same physiological stress response that, in extreme cases, can cause a fatal heart event. But this usually only happens if there's an underlying vulnerability. Is it possible for a nightmare to be the sole cause? For that, we need to look at one of the most mysterious and unsettling syndromes in modern medicine. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention began to notice a terrifying and inexplicable pattern. A significant number of Hmong refugees from Laos, who had settled in the United States, were dying suddenly and mysteriously in their sleep. These weren't old or sick individuals. They were, by all accounts, healthy young men. Witnesses would report the same horrifying story. The man would go to sleep perfectly fine, but in the middle of the night would begin to groan, gasp for air, and show signs of extreme terror. By the time anyone could intervene, he would be dead. Autopsies were performed, but they revealed no clear cause of death. The Hmong people had a name for this phenomenon, Dab Tsuam, which translates to, the spirit catches you. They believed a malevolent spirit, a nightmare spirit, would descend upon the sleeping person, sit on their chest, and crush the life out of them. This wasn't an isolated cultural belief. In the Philippines, it's known as Bangungut. In Thailand, it's Lai Tai, or sleep death. In Japan, it was called Pokkuri, sudden death. For centuries, cultures across Southeast Asia had stories of these nocturnal deaths, often linked to nightmares or terrifying spirits. The folklore described a demon called the Mare, a malicious entity that would sit on a sleeper's chest, causing feelings of suffocation and bringing on terrifying dreams. This is in fact the ancient root of our modern word nightmare. For years, Western medicine was baffled, calling it sudden unexplained nocturnal death syndrome, or SUND. Was this a purely psychological phenomenon? Were these men literally being scared to death by their nightmares, perhaps triggered by the immense trauma of war and displacement? The answer turned out to be a terrifying marriage of folklore and genetics. Scientists eventually discovered that many of the SUNDS victims shared a common genetic link. They had a predisposition to a rare inherited heart rhythm disorder called Brugada Syndrome. This condition, often caused by mutations in the SCN5A gene, affects the ion channels that control the heart's electrical activity. People with Brugada syndrome can have a structurally normal heart, but it's electrically unstable. And what are the symptoms and triggers of a fatal Brugada event? They occur most often during sleep or rest. They can be triggered by fever, and chillingly, one of the most commonly reported symptoms by those who have the syndrome and survive an event is experiencing terrifying nightmares and thrashing in their sleep. Suddenly, the folklore and the science snapped into focus. The Dab Tsuam wasn't a spirit in the literal sense. It was the terrifying sensation of a genetically unstable heart going into ventricular fibrillation. The nightmare wasn't just a side effect. The intense stress and physiological arousal from the nightmare could be the very trigger that pushed the vulnerable heart over the edge into a fatal arrhythmia. SUNDS provides our first concrete documented link. A nightmare, combined with a hidden underlying medical condition, can create a lethal combination. The dream doesn't act alone, but it can be the spark that ignites the fuse. But this still relies on a pre-existing physical flaw. What if the mind itself is the only weapon needed? Everyone has heard of the placebo effect. You're given a sugar pill, told it's a powerful medicine, and your belief alone causes a real positive physiological change. But the placebo has a dark, malevolent twin, the nocebo effect. The word nocebo is Latin for I will harm. It's the phenomenon where negative expectations cause negative outcomes. If a doctor warns you that a medication might cause headaches, you are significantly more likely to experience headaches, even if you're given a completely inert substance. In clinical trials, around 25% of people taking a placebo report negative side effects they were warned about. This isn't just imagined discomfort. This is real, measurable harm caused by belief. And in its most extreme form, the nocebo effect can kill. Anthropologists have documented this for over a century, often under the term voodoo death. In certain cultures, if a shaman or elder curses an individual, telling them they will die, the victim often does. They become convinced of their impending doom, retreat from their community, stop eating and drinking, and within days or weeks they are dead, with no other discernible cause. Modern medicine has documented this as well, under the less exotic name psychogenic death. It's death triggered by psychic stimuli, by overwhelming hopelessness, fear or grief. One of the most famous cases involved a man diagnosed with terminal cancer who was given only months to live. He died within that time frame, but the autopsy revealed something stunning. The tumor hadn't grown. In fact, it was small and not the cause of death. His intern, Dr. Clifton Meader, concluded he hadn't died of cancer, but from the belief that he was dying of cancer, In another study, women who believed they were prone to heart disease were nearly 4 times more likely to die than women with similar risk factors who didn't hold that belief. The mind's expectation of harm or death can create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now connect this to the dream state. When you are awake, you have a critical filter. If someone tells you you're cursed, part of your rational mind can fight back. You can find counter-arguments, seek other opinions, rationalize your way out of the fear. But when you are dreaming, that rational filter is gone. The frontal lobes, responsible for critical thought and skepticism, are dampened down. The dream is not a story you are being told. It is a reality you are experiencing. There is no skepticism. There is no doubt. If you dream you are being chased by a monster, you are being chased by a monster. If you dream you are dying, you are dying. A nightmare, therefore, could be the ultimate nocebo. It's a scenario where your mind presents you with an irrefutable, terrifying truth that your life is in imminent, unavoidable danger. Your conscious mind is offline and cannot object. Your body is then subjected to the full, unfiltered power of this belief. It is the perfect environment for a psychogenic death event to unfold. If you want the most potent example of how the dreaming mind can blur with reality and create genuine terror, look no further than sleep paralysis. This phenomenon occurs when your brain is caught in the transition between REM sleep and wakefulness. Your mind becomes alert, but the REM atonia, the muscle paralysis we talked about, hasn't worn off yet. You are awake, but you cannot move, you cannot speak, you are trapped inside your own body. But it gets worse. Because your brain is still partially in a dream state, it begins to project hallucinations into your real-world environment. People overwhelmingly report the same terrifying visions: a dark figure in the room, a presence sitting on their chest, a sense of crushing pressure and suffocation. This is the ancient mare of folklore, brought to life by a glitch in brain chemistry. Sleep paralysis is not directly dangerous, but it is, for many, the most terrifying experience of their lives. It is proof positive that our brains can create experiences that are indistinguishable from reality, coupled with genuine primal fear and physical sensations like pressure and breathlessness. It is a waking nightmare. It demonstrates that all the components are there: the brain's ability to create a terrifying and utterly convincing reality, and the body's capacity to respond with overwhelming fear. The only thing missing is the final step in the cascade. So where does this leave us? We've journeyed through the mechanics of sleep, the mysteries of sudden death syndromes, and the chilling power of belief. Let's lay out the facts. Can a healthy person with no underlying conditions be killed directly by a nightmare? Is there a case on record where a medical examiner has written "cause of death, bad dream"? The answer, based on current medical science, is almost certainly no. There has never been a single provably documented case. Our bodies, even in sleep, have multiple layers of safeguards. A healthy cardiovascular system can withstand the stress of even the most terrifying nightmare. But this is where the popular question misses the terrifying nuance. The question isn't just, can a dream kill you? The real question is, can a dream cause you to die? And the answer to that is a chilling yes. It's not the dream itself that's the weapon. The dream is the trigger. Death from a dream is not a single event. It is a perfect storm. It requires a confluence of factors, a deadly cascade where each step enables the next. First, you need vulnerability. This could be a hidden, undiagnosed heart condition like Brugada Syndrome or long QT syndrome. It could be severe coronary artery disease. It's a pre-existing weakness that makes the system fragile. Second, you need the nightmare, and not just any bad dream. A nightmare of extreme intensity, one that triggers a maximal, overwhelming fight-or-flight response. This provides the flood of stress hormones, the surge in blood pressure, the demand on the heart. Third, you potentially need a failure in the body's stress response system. New research suggests that people who suffer from frequent nightmares may have physiological changes in their hormonal axes, such as a blunted cortisol response. This could mean their system for managing and recovering from stress is already dysfunctional. And finally, you have the dream state itself, an environment of total belief, with no rational filter to mitigate the terror. The ultimate nocebo, convincing the mind that death is not just possible, but imminent. When these factors converge in the dead of night, you have the perfect storm. The nightmare triggers a massive stress response in a body that is already vulnerable and potentially ill-equipped to handle it. The heart's fragile electrical system is overwhelmed, leading to a fatal arrhythmia. So did the dream kill them? No, their heart condition did. But would they have died at that exact moment, on that specific night, without the dream? Almost certainly not. The nightmare was the catalyst. It was the finger that pulled the trigger on an already loaded gun. And here's the most unsettling thought. How would anyone even know? If someone dies from a heart attack in their sleep, an autopsy confirms the cardiac event. It cannot detect the nightmare that caused it. We have no test, no biological marker for the content of a person's final dream. These deaths are likely happening, recorded as simple cardiac arrests, with the true, terrifying trigger remaining forever a secret of the subconscious. The line between our mind and our body is far thinner than we imagine. Our brains, the source of our greatest creativity, our deepest loves, and our most profound thoughts, also house our most primal fears. In the darkness of sleep, in the theater of our dreams, those fears are given a stage. While a nightmare is unlikely to be the sole culprit in a healthy individual's death, the evidence is clear. The terror we feel in our sleep is not just an illusion. It is a real, potent physiological event, and under the right, tragic circumstances, it can be the final push into the abyss. It reminds us that some of the greatest mysteries and dangers we face are not in the world around us, but deep within the labyrinth of our own minds. Sleep well. If you found yourself captivated by the strange and terrifying power of the human mind, you are going to want to see what happens when it's deprived of all external stimuli. Our next video, How Long Could You Stay Sane in Complete Darkness, is right here on the end card. Click it and continue the journey with us into the unknown. And of course, if we've given you something to think about tonight, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us continue to explore these deep and unsettling questions. Finally, we want to hear from you. We're fascinated by where our viewers are watching from as they contemplate these ideas. So in the comments below, let us know what city, state, or country you're watching from. Thank you for watching, and try not to think about this too much when you turn out the lights.